Right down.
Okay, now I see some familiar faces on here already. Yes,
Okay, you
y'all.
live.
Okay.
We live. Okay. What's
Yes.
going on? Where's it? I don't see it.
Wait a minute, it should pop up in 1 minute. Okay, here we go.
Wait a minute.
Look.
I'm on there. Go ahead.
Let me see. Yeah, I might have to take your phone from you for a week. Okay.
Okay, there we go. That one. And
What's
up
going
top,
on with you? No, wait a
the
minute.
first one. Right. And up there.
No,
That's
I
not it.
think this. Okay, no, you want the videos.
Okay.
Let me see, box. Okay, here
Here
you
we
go.
go.
Now you can share.
All right.
Okay, let's get it shared. Let me
Share
see.
now.
Okay.
All right. There we go.
Okay, Black Excellence. Okay.
How's the sound on the mic?
Okay, you good. Now let me wait a minute. Let me get this TikTok popping. Okay. Right, you ready?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay. Hey, y'all. Hey. Welcome to Blaqrose Garden, powered by Monroe Media TV. Okay. This is the first show. Hey, Mr. Hill.
It is a beautiful place. Too.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. You're going to introduce yourself.
I am Fred Hill. I am the candidate running for city council at large in Washington, D.C. That is a citywide seat where we represent everyone across the city. I am a registered independent, but that does not mean that if you are a Democrat, Republican, or any other party that you cannot vote. You can vote all the way across. And then, in fact, I encourage you to pay close attention to why I am the best candidate, the number one candidate of choice for the council at large seat. So again, I'm happy to be here.
Me too. We done been off of air for 3 weeks.
Yes.
I know it's a lot been going on. So we got a great show for y'all today. First of all, we're going to get into politics with Mr. Fred Hill. The second part of the show, this is Domestic Violence Month. So we're going to have guests come flying in from Atlanta, Mr. Christopher Barnes, and we're going to get into financial abuse when it comes to relationships and domestic violence. Also, we have candidate for Republican mayor, Washington, D.C., Miss Stacey Hall. And we have candidate for Prince George's County executive in the building. Okay. So we got a great show for y'all. All right. We got a great show for y'all. Mr. Hill, what's been going on?
Well, as many of you know, the district is not short of any public safety concerns right now. And, as I have been calling for several things to be done when it comes to public safety, is that everyone needs to understand it's not just dealing with police or those matters centering in police. Public safety also includes housing, transportation, our schools, education. And so we'll start out with talking about the public safety as it pertains to police.
Yes.
If you've been paying attention to the forums or debates that have been held up to this point, I have been the only candidate that is calling for an increase, not just an increase of pay for our police, fire emergency staff, and sanitation workers, but specifically a 30% increase. And for those who think that that's kind of a crazy and way out number, it would be if you're only used to 2%, 4%, or 12% over 4 years.
Right.
Just think about it. 2% of a dollar is 2 cents. It's 2 cents. That's so close to slavery, I can't even believe it. And we have people who are managing the city's funds right now that think that that's all you should get. When I've checked the requirements or the work that is being done by our MPD, they're grossly underpaid. And this is very disturbing considering that there were 13 council members that sent us into this space where we are right now by voting to defund our police department. But there's some few things I'm going to point out to you that I made some notes on that many of you might not know. And what happened when the council voted to defund our police, they demoralized a lot of the officers.
Right.
Those many that I speak to right now this week or prior to this week are honestly 1 foot out the door. They're working a lot of long hours, and that's not taken into consideration that all of this came about from those 13 council members that voted to defund. 3 of the incumbents, I call them the 3 blind mice, those 3 incumbents also were part of that decision. But what's quite disturbing is that none of those council members have ever been so much a security guard for Walmart.
Wow.
And they're going to tell the MPD's chief of police how to run this city. There were over $7 million that were pulled away from MPD. I think it was 14 million in the beginning, pulled away from MPD that were redirected. 7 million, 6 million, 7 million was redirected to the violence interrupter program.
Right.
Now, the violence interrupter program has not had any information to show what it's done since then. And since then, the council has voted to move more money into the violence interrupter program.
Wow.
And I'll say this again, as I said before, there is a place for it. I do believe that it would be most effective if the violence interrupters were addressing the youngsters at an early age, those who seem to be going off the straight path. That would be a good target for them, as well as those returning citizens that are coming home and not really living up to their citizenship, because not everyone returning wants to be a citizen.
Right.
And that's where I think it would be most effective. And then when you look at the other issues that center around where the violence interrupters would work or their programming would work,
right,
it is it's sad to see that so much emphasis has been put upon that. And as I said before, I've never seen anyone dial love, peace, or understanding.
That's right.
Or a violence interrupter when they get in trouble. But everyone dials 911. And when you don't have the number of officers that's needed, then we're left looking at what we have right now. Guns going off every day. Some of the kids are not safe going to school, in school, and coming home from school. The road rage and things that continue on the streets of DC are left unchecked. So we need to make sure that people are aware of what's going on when it comes to MPD. There's a delay in the deployment of officers right now.
Okay.
And what that means is that some of the officers that I've spoken to, captains that I've spoken to, and other officers, lieutenants, the average call response, that what comes in right now is that if a call comes in now, they only have 1 to 2 officers that may be able to respond.
Wow.
Whereas before there were 15 or more officers that could respond. So this has a huge negative impact on, as I said, the response time. So if you have a domestic violence call, you have a crime robbery call, you have a person with a gun, armed with a gun, whatever that comes in, the next officer may be tied up and not be able to get there for quite some time, 20 minutes or more.
Good God.
Which leaves us in a very unsafe state. So that's something that people need to keep in mind. When I talked about earlier the pay raises, and I said that 30% is the number, this comes from not just a number I've thrown out there. The 30% would actually put a new officer hired immediately in the range of the average median income, which position them to also be able to purchase a home in DC if they so desired, or afford to live in DC.
Right.
Number one. Number two, those officers that could live in the city could respond to emergencies a lot faster than those who might have to come from St. Mary's County,
But check this
Dallas
out.
County, and
Check this out. I talked to a detective. He's been a detective in DC for 10 years, right? He said they have been hiring people. He said, but they've been quitting in 3 months.
Yeah.
Because they get, hired and it's just so rough.
Yeah.
And the mismanagement and how they're being treated, and they just say it's not even worth it. So they getting them, they getting them $20,000 sign-on bonuses and rolling out.
Yeah, so the $20,000 signing bonus, from what I understand, takes them at least a year to get it.
Wow.
It takes them at least a year to get it. But here's a disturbing fact that no one is talking about except for me, out of everybody running, and that is the officers that are new signing up sign on to receive the $20,000 signing bonus, and it's up to a year that they would receive that money. But what does that mean to the officer that was hired last year?
Right.
And the year before that, that's not getting a pay raise equal to that 30%. That's where my 30% comes from, folks. That's from the base salary of an officer at $65,000. You add $20,000 on top of that, that puts them at the $85,000 mark. And that's a 30% pay raise.
That's right.
Right. But that officer who was working the year before, or maybe a little bit before that, is not getting it. And how do you think that would make you feel of a person you're on the job, you're working, and now because the company needs to hire some more people, they give somebody a $20,000 pay raise and didn't say anything to you, and you've been there longer.
Wow.
You've been there longer. We've seen the same thing happen with Fairfax County. They're losing officers at a record number,
left and right,
because those officers there recognize that it's not fair for them to work like that, all the long hours. Some of these officers right now are pulling anywhere from a 12 to 18-hour shift before they have time off. And then to still undergo the same scrutiny, challenges, and difficulties that they had before this whole situation came about. And people need to also understand that for anyone who says that this all came about as a result of COVID is out of their mind. This was before COVID that we lost 1,300 officers before COVID. And as I said, so many of them are feeling demoralized right now. And the government, no one in the government, not one in the government has said, I'm sorry, or that they apologize for the decision that they made, or that they've made the announcement that we need to do something. Instead of telling Chief Conte he needs to do something.
Right.
He's limited. His hands are tied. Right. And so
I think that's why Chief Newsom left.
Chief Newsom was leaving because there was a squeeze of that. There was the talk, the buzz about what they were going to do. And I believe he just said, you know what? I'm not going to get caught up.
I'm not getting caught up in that. Yeah.
And so when you look at number of hours that they're still having to work, there's a week announcement that we're going to have 200 to 300 new officers, right? When we lost 1,300. Now, before the 1,300 left, because of the number of people that we have in the district, we should have on average 4,000 officers. Right. We were 1,000 below what we should have had before officers started leaving. So this put us at a disadvantage of being able to provide safe streets, safe education, safe housing, and proper policing across the city. Now, before everybody jumps off onto, there were some bad officers, and that's why defunding of the police became a priority. That's not true. Right? It became a priority because Council Member Charles Allen, who championed this push of defunding the police, not from Washington, D.C., and his hometown or area was one of those that was doing that. And people need to be mindful that when you don't have people who are truly interested in your well-being and your agenda, your needs, this is what it looks like. And so, as it began to get the support from others on the council, people in the streets began to yell the same thing. And when they began to call on that to be the next thing to do because it just sounded good or whatever, now you're living with it.
What I want to say is thank you for running for city council member at large for real, because doing some research, I'm a missing and murder advocate. Right here in between us is 127 pages of homicides from the past 7 years.
2015 to now.
Yep, 2015 to now, almost 1,000 people underneath the leadership of the council that we already have.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
What you got to say about that?
Well, again, it goes back to those who are inexperienced making decisions against what the people want. It's against the people's will. Many people are so busy working 1, 2, or 3 jobs, raising a family or going to school that they don't have the time to monitor our government. They entrust our government and our government leaders. But what you need to understand when you are when you're away, the mice will play. The cat will play, right? So when the cat's away, the mice will play. Right? This is what's happening right now at a record rate in our government. You have to be mindful that if there is no accountability for the things that are being done that are incorrect, they can sell you on the idea of a new fix as being the best option.
Right.
I'll give you an example. $20,000 to hire a new officer. When really you should be saying to the officers that are already here, thank you for hanging in. Thank you for giving your time. Thank you and your family for continuing to support this city and provide the service that you're doing. And because of that, we're going to compensate you for where you should be being paid right now. As I said, it's going to help provide opportunity for to increase housing justice in this city. Not affordable housing like everybody calls about. I call for housing justice. It looks like there are more people being pushed out of the city at a record rate that it's not going to be turned around unless we turn it around.
Right.
And people need to understand the reason I say we is because I'm not into this race by myself or for myself. Many of you know I'm a 25-year successful business owner in the district. I've hired over 500 DC residents, 180 plus that are returning citizens. And it just grew to me to be, well, this is something I can fix. Not by myself, but with 200 and some thousand DC residents that are behind us right now supporting this campaign that have let me know, that they are sick and tired as much as I am.
Right.
Of watching people who claim to know everything only to benefit for themselves.
Right.
Right. We watched last week or so where, and these are things that I've been calling on. I've been calling for refunding the police as opposed to defunding. I've been calling for housing justice. I've been calling for an increase of pay for our educators. And when I talk about the educators, I'm talking about the teachers, our janitors, and our cooks of public schools.
That's right.
And a few weeks ago, we saw where the government gave raises and contract negotiation signings to the administrators. These are the people already on the top. They're 6+ figure income earners anyway. But the people who really make the wheels go around are not getting anything.
They're not getting anything. That's how it always has been. And we put so much responsibilities on our teachers, because our teachers are most of the time our children's parents. Even when they leave the school in some situations, because they find themselves in some horrifying situations with dealing with these kids. Okay, another thing, they're not getting paid the money to even be able to supply the classes. Okay, a lot of times they're taking money out of their own pockets, or they're sending out letters home to the parents to
the parents.
send in a whole bunch of stuff.
Yes.
You know, which sometimes, you know, we're in some times right now where, you know, we can't afford that type of stuff, but we still do it, you know. So I believe that they should have been paid attention to.
They play on the minds,
Mm-hmm.
and this is just, it's as clear as day to me. They play on the mind of the parents and the teachers because something still needs to be done.
Right.
We need you all to help out. But how did our government turn around and help the teachers who worked just this summer?
Right.
So many of them have not been paid from working this summer. Now, what's worse about what I just said is that it is not the first year. It has happened repeatedly.
Wow.
And some of these teachers who were there last year and the year before went through the same thing of not getting paid this year. And they're here now in the school season and haven't even been paid for the summer work. Some $8,000 to $15,000. Now, again, when you look at what's wrong, I'm a fixer. I look at things and I say, okay, you know what? There's the problem. Now let's talk about what we need to do to fix it.
Right.
And the first thing that needs to happen with our education system is it needs to come from under the watch of the mayor.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I've watched repeatedly how that leadership did not lead. And it left our kids and our teachers and the parents in horrible state year after year. Right. We come back in off the COVID challenges. They couldn't get it together, or whether it was going to be Zoom calls, teaching, and then also the in-person challenges that we have.
You know how many people call Child Protective Services on the schools?
I mean,
during that time, because I was one of them.
You look at, most people don't know this, but DC public schools right now has been rated anywhere between 41 and 49 out of 50 states.
Good God Almighty.
You can look it up yourself. I don't make these things up. Anything I do, I'm going to tell you the truth. You can go to Google. You can Google the stats right now for what is the position of DC public schools compared to all the other states. And that is what I've seen. I thought it was just 41 from this last week's report, but now it's 41 to 49.
Good God Almighty.
Right? As being the worst schools in the country.
In the country.
When you look at why, because I said I'm a fixer. When you look at why, first we take the school from under the management of the mayor's office. The next thing you do is that you pay the educators, the cooks and the janitors a salary that puts them in a position where they can afford to live in the city. The next thing that you do, and this is the most critical part, this is so critical to changing the crime stats in the city, is that you start up vocational ed. I've been saying since day one. Really, I've been saying for the last 5, 6 years.
I gotta clap on that because we have not, a studio audience, because they have taken that from school. They like snuck it away to people didn't even understand.
They didn't sneak it. In 1982, for those that don't know, in 1982, Ronald Reagan had the push-out effort across this country to deindustrialize all the inner city schools, right? Take the trades out of the schools, because this was the #1 component to creating middle-class African American families in this country.
Good God.
Ronald Reagan pulled that out. The next thing that came behind that was that when we take away the opportunity for you to be able to get a training that can put food on the table, then we're going to increase the chance of you going to jail. And we saw that happen all over the country. In 1985, Washington, D.C.'s council decided to do the same thing that the rest of the country did and pull trades out of the schools. Now, I'm really bothered by that because I'm a benefactor of the trades in the school. I didn't like English. I didn't like math. I didn't like geography.
None of that. Me either.
But because I liked auto mechanics, right? Auto mechanics. I liked the building trades. I soon learned that I needed English so I could communicate to my potential customers. I needed math so I knew how to count the money.
Right.
And I needed geography so I could know how to get to them.
To the locations. That's right.
But once I learned geography, I found out the world is really round. and it was so many different places I could go to.
Right.
And I joined the United States Air Force and became a veteran that traveled to all 7 continents, right? At the end of the day, math became my most favorite subject, right? But this is one of the things that I say that people are not considering when they look at what is going to change the crime stats. And I say that because you gain the interest of someone who really is not left to their own understanding. You gain the interest of saying, you know what? If I don't want to do IT, I can do building trades. I can be a plumber, electrician, HVAC technician, right? And people need to understand those are jobs that can easily pay you a 6-figure income. Right out of high school.
Right out of high school.
Right? So we can do better with our young right now by providing an opportunity of training for them so that when they are in school, they are ready to capture employment.
Right.
And move you on the ladder from employment to a career, from a career to potentially ownership as a business owner, right? Entrepreneurship. If we don't lay down the map for our young and we leave them to run on their own paths, we see what we see right now.
Exactly.
Now, a dangerous part that really nobody wants to discuss, and I'm not afraid to speak of it because I'm not beholden to any developer, contractor, or a team of people. I am here for the people of this city. And so many of them have expressed to me their greatest concerns about our juvenile justice reform and our
let's talk about education. That. Because I know that the way I feel, coming from the advocate point of view, I was talking to a young lady from Florida today who lost her son to gun violence. She also started a nonprofit centered around that, and she was talking about the same issues with the council and everything that's going on there. Okay, so I lost my train of thought because it's so much going on. What they don't like your approach to it.
Right. So let me clear up some things for some people who really didn't get to hear or have a chance to really let their mind be open to what I'm saying. And in juvenile justice reform, I am not one saying that we need to lock everybody up. What I did say before, and I still stand by it today, is that when we have a juvenile who has committed 1st or 2nd degree murder, that means with intent, ladies and gentlemen.
That's right.
I got up out of the bed and I said, I'm going to kill somebody today, right? With intent, they should not be, if they're 15 years old, laying down till they're 18, getting a new start in life, right? What I mean is that they should be charged as an adult.
That's right.
Okay, now whatever that sentence comes about as, that's all between the prosecutor, the judge, and whoever else is in the courtroom at that time. But what we have right now is we have too many of our youngsters that are not engaged in a fruitful opportunity of life because the home setting is not as tight as
it needs to be.
Nobody wants to talk about that. Everybody wants to talk about, well, give them a hug, you know. Hey, I'm going to be honest with you. If you kill somebody that I love, I ain't giving you no hug.
Right.
Don't look for me to do that. I'm not going to play no game with you on it. If you hadn't have a mother, you didn't have a father, and you didn't get 2 scoops of sugar in your Cheerios this morning, there's no excuse that you should not be charged as an adult.
That's right.
For what you did.
That's right.
Now, once you are incarcerated, what we have found is that there are many of our young who didn't finish school, right? And right now, I'm calling for that to be the #1 priority when a person is incarcerated, to get them back on the right track again. When we want to talk about rehabilitation in prison is not letting you, not the bell goes off, you get up, you go eat, you go in the, you sit in the dorm room, or you go outside for half an hour, and if you're good, you can get an hour. That's not rehabilitation. Rehabilitation puts you in a position of where you begin to learn what it's going to be like to be on the street again. I'm preparing you for your release.
Yeah.
And it should start from day one. And one of the things that we need to do is we need to increase those who are graduating at the 12th grade level, improving their reading skills.
Right.
One thing that bothers me to the core is that when I get around some young and some older ones now, that when they open their mouth to start to speak, it's not even a complete sentence made. You can't go get a job easy in a Fortune 500 company right now if you can't communicate.
Right.
Right? So we need to prepare our young for that. The other thing that needs to happen is not everybody wants to go to college.
That's right.
And when everyone is not college bound or desirable to go to college, then we need to create a pathway for those who cannot. And I just named a few positions or careers a minute ago. Plumbers, electricians, HVAC technicians, IT professionals, all of these can be had at high school level.
If they hadn't never taken the trades out of school.
Yeah, it can be had at high
down
school
the
level.
Job Corps centers. Like I come from Job Corps.
Yeah.
Woodland Job Corps Center.
Yes.
You know, and I learned so much being in that Job Corps Center. I actually got my certificate in bookkeeping and word processing, accounting, and I took an auto mechanics class.
Yes.
You know, as a woman. My cousin doing the same thing, and she fixing trucks, big giant trucks.
Yeah,
diesel mechanic, and she's a woman.
And people need to understand the light that you don't shine on the postman, the postwoman, the light that you don't shine on the barber technician,
exactly,
that you don't shine
the
on the
cosmetologist. Yeah,
you know, these men and women are in position where they can do good. Many of them that I know are friends of mine are well above the average median income.
Right.
Now, again, people need to understand the reason I'm so heavy on vocational ed is because it was what created the opportunity for many of the parents yesterday and beyond that send their kids through college.
Right.
They were able to put their kids through school because dad was a brick mason and mom had a hair salon.
Yeah.
You know, and these were modest careers then, overlooked now. And every time I look around, I see another building going up. So they still need brick masons. They still need drywall finishers. They still need painters. They still need plumbers, electricians. These are things that a computer is not doing just yet. They're aiming for it, but it's not here yet. Truck drivers. Because of COVID, look at all the CDL jobs that came about that are not being filled yet. So it just doesn't stop with you just being a truck driver. How about you being in a position where you own a couple of trucks?
Exactly.
You are now an entrepreneur, right? Everybody's not a leader. So some people just want a job.
Exactly.
And you create that space for them. We have to be a lot more creative. And unless the people in the city are heard of what they want to see as the change, our government leaders, so-called government leaders, will continue to go on their own agendas.
Right.
And their own agendas in the city right now do not include, from what I am looking at, the opportunities that should exist through vocational training in schools, housing justice. Part of the housing justice piece that I talk about is how unfair it is for us to have a government that should be monitoring and managing the very serious and unsafe conditions that a lot of people live in the city.
Right.
And some of it, and from what I saw yesterday, I was at Marbury Plaza yesterday. Not everybody in Marbury Plaza is low and no income.
Well, Marlboro Plaza has never been a low-income community. My aunt lives over there. It's always been a place with doctors and people that work at. Exactly. It's always been a middle class, a middle income family type of situation. So to see them going through the trials and tribulations that they're going through over there is ridiculous.
I went into several units yesterday. For those that remember, we put out a notice to do a food giveaway every Sunday, which we couldn't do it this Sunday. We did it Monday at Marbury Plaza. A number of the residents who came out and were able to benefit from the food we brought Thank you again for that also.
Oh, we collaborate. That's how, this our city.
Yes.
So we got to
Yes.
take care of them,
Well, a number of them that came out pointed out the unsafe conditions.
Mm-hmm.
And for those who don't know, I am a 30 plus year building inspector, 30 plus year lead based paint risk
You better
assessor,
go. Okay.
30 plus year mold inspector and
Yeah.
remediator, and then also a 30 plus year asbestos inspector.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not just shooting from the hip of what I think. I'm going to speak the facts, as I told you
Right.
before. No one else on the council can claim any of that. No one running right now has the knowledge of what I'm talking about.
Exactly.
So as I go into some of these units, I recognized yesterday things that the tenant didn't recognize.
Mm-hmm.
So when they pulled the drywall last Monday out of the lady's bathroom ceiling, walls down the hallway, and some others because it was mold present,
Mm-hmm.
they pulled the walls out and they didn't do anything else. As of yesterday, was a week. They still hadn't put anything back or done anything. And while I'm standing there, the lady is telling me, she said, I'm afraid to be in here because I know the mice gonna come out.
Yeah.
And soon as she said that, seconds later, a big rat about this long fell out the ceiling.
Good God Almighty.
Now, I don't know who got to the door first, me or her. But we were both outside before I told her to call. She needs to call a family member, and so we could address it. But the reason I bring up that specific situation is because even with the contractor, the developer, the owner of the property sending their work team in to go and address the mold situation, the very first thing before you do any opening of any walls, any demolition, is you do an air quality test. I asked her and she said, no, they didn't do that. The reason you do the air quality test is so that you can find out what type of mold is present. There are several different types, and not every remediation process works for all of them.
That's right.
Okay.
It really
you got to do the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
So when you do the right thing, now you come in there and you've identified what type of mold, so you know what to do.
Right.
All right. Now, after the work has been done by that contractor who is a certified mold remediating company or trained staff, then you do another air quality test to make sure that it gets a clearance.
Right.
If it doesn't get a clearance, then you need to go and address the areas that still are deficient. They're not doing that. So they're going in there slapping drywall on the walls, painting, and months later, here it goes again. Mold is right back through there, right? So we have the same issue there. There were several units of the laundromats, the laundry rooms, that were shut down because they disturbed asbestos during renovations. And now the people got to leave there and go to a laundromat to wash their clothes.
Good God Almighty.
But they're paying their full rent. They're paying their full rent and not getting the amenities that they're paying for. Now, this has been going on. This is not just last week's, folks. I want y'all to understand. I've been connected to the Marbury Plaza community for the last 2 to 3 years when it comes to these issues. When I was first contacted about it, really about 4 years ago now, some of those same residents were having issues with their HVAC systems, no heat, no AC, all these things that they're paying for.
Okay.
Now, many of these people, I redirected them to contact, of course, the mayor's office or the agencies that could come in, DCRA, DDOE, that could come in and address these issues. When those government offices didn't respond, then I tell them that you need to contact those who chair the housing committee.
Right.
That's Anita Bonds. And then followed up on the committee is Alyssa Silverman and Kenya McDuffie. None of these agencies or the committee members returned a phone call to some over 50 people that I spoke to at Marbury Plaza. And they have the audacity to want to ask you for a vote again this year.
Yeah.
It's wrong. It's
your
criminal.
First 100 days. Because
it's criminal.
I mean, what is the first thing that you plan to tackle?
Well, first understand that What I will introduce
Mm-hmm.
is just what I said here today, and that is our police officers, our fire
Mm-hmm.
emergency staff, our public school system staff, and our sanitation workers
Right.
all get a 30%
The
pay raise.
raise. Mm-hmm.
Now, as I started to say earlier, where that money gonna come from? The district right now is pushing almost $1 billion in waste and abuse.
Mm-hmm.
People don't understand. That's a lot of money.
Right.
We have one agency, the
Mm-hmm.
Department of Housing and Community Development, that right now pushed almost $200 million back to the federal agencies because they mismanaged, misspent the money.
Mm-hmm.
Now, last year when they messed up over $85 million, that director, Polly Donaldson, was still allowed to have a job.
Mm-hmm.
And then came back this year and it's 93 million that she messed up on.
Good God.
While being
Almighty.
allowed to quietly exit our government.
Mm-hmm.
No accountability. Nobody saying anything was wrong. But the first thing that you're going to hear is that there's going to be a new tax or an increase of tax so they can collect that money from the hardworking people in the city.
Right.
Keep that same 200 million coming back in. This is what's been going on in this government for far too long, and nobody wants to speak about it.
Right.
Now, when you talk about the housing issues, the reason I believe that those people are not getting held accountable
Mm-hmm.
is because most of them are friends with the developer or the contractor
Right.
or the owner of the property. And how dare you bite the hand that feeds you?
That feeds you.
You know, so when we talk about what's really going on, you don't have to wonder. You can look at it. You can see it.
Mm-hmm.
It's clear as day.
Yeah.
The people,
It is.
the people are not stupid as they would think they for them to believe that they are.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There's no way in the world you can have the same issues in the same property year after year, never be addressed. Complaints go into DCRA, complaints go to the mayor's office, complaints go to the council members that are in charge of those committees, and nothing be done about it. Yet they get reelected time and time again.
Yeah, because these people have been on these same, holding these same positions and have been on these many committees since Jesus was a baby, okay? And still have not did anything.
Alyssa Silverman's been on the council for 8 years. Kenya McDuffie has been on the council for 10 years.
10. Mm-hmm.
Anita Bonds has been on the council for 12 years. And much of what they've managed, the committees that they've been on, have the same issues that they had 8, 10, and 12 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at Ward 5, Ward 5 still has the issue of a known open-air drug market from 20 years ago.
20 years
It's
ago.
still there right now.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at Bloomingdale, the floods of Bloomingdale is an annual unnecessary event.
Mm-hmm.
But there are the people who, council member Kenny McDuffie of that area says he's doing a great thing for the people. Now, I believe, here's what I believe as being the truth. The people of Ward 5 were sick of it. So he decided he was going to run for the Attorney General's office.
Mm-hmm.
But as he began to say he was going to run for the Attorney General's office, here's what many people in the city do not know. Don't ask me how I know. I find out things. People tell me.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
I'm going to report to you what's the truth, and you can go and investigate it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Right? When he found out that he did not qualify, this man went to the chairman, Phil Mendelson, and asked for a special hearing to modify the requirements to be an AG so he could qualify. Now, here's the part that's really disturbing. The only thing that he had to do to qualify as an attorney was write 2 wills and 1 contract.
Good God Almighty.
And he could have did that with a family member. But instead, he wants to argue his point and take the case to court. And of course, court shut it down and said, you still don't qualify.
You see all of the candidates that's running, you can kind of actually tell that it don't take much of nothing. Okay. And when you go and read their backgrounds, you know what I'm saying? And their qualifications and all of that stuff, like you just can't wake up and say, okay, I'm going to be the candidate for the mayor. Okay. I don't care how much work you do in the community or any of that. It takes a special type of person you know, and I'm going to look for a special type of person when it comes to this person having control of my livelihood.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
My children's schools, my taxes, housing. Okay. Whether I'm going to have a decent food desert in my community. Now, let's talk about the issue with Ward 8. You know, because it breaks my heart to hear you when you say the life expectancy in Ward 8, 20 years
less.
And why is that?
Than west of the river.
Why is that, Mr. Hill?
Number one, we don't have the choices. And I'm a Ward 8 resident. Let me set the record straight for Kareem Marshall say he's the only candidate east of the river, and that's not true.
Bad face the lie. Go ahead.
I've been a Ward 8 resident before he was born. Okay, so in Ward 8, we've had no hospital.
Yeah.
We've had substandard schools.
Yeah.
We've had the lack of good food choices.
That's right.
For years.
For years.
And this is the one thing that has caused the greatest separation between those east and west of the river. Now, we just opened up a new Lidl grocery store in Ward 7, which was really nice. I'm glad to see that came. But one of the things that disturbed me is when I know that the Wegmans opened in Northwest, I went up there too to their grand opening, and no one in the council has said anything.
Right.
But the question I proposed to the council, the mayor, and anyone else who signed off, used our tax dollars into that development project. Why don't you say to them, look, Mr. and Mrs. Wegmans, if you want to build a store here, we're great with that. But where we need one is east of the river.
East of the river.
Where we need one is in Ward 8 or Ward 7.
That's right. That's right.
And if you do that first, then we'll make some special considerations to you in Northwest. Now, up there in the Northwest area of DC, there are 4 grocery stores.
They have 4. That's what I was getting ready to say. That's right.
So
they have them on top of some of their apartment buildings.
We need to demand,
under them.
Yeah, we need to demand at a greater level from our elected officials of how it's going to be done with our tax dollars. Everybody that lives in Ward 8 is not unemployed, is not low income.
That's right.
And doesn't care. That's a misconception. Now, we'd like to see the people get out and vote more. But until that day comes, there are those of us who live east of the river who definitely know that it's possible to do it now and not later. We know it. We see it happening all the time.
Right.
So we need to have that happen. The other thing with housing, because I didn't get to touch on that, housing justice. I have been calling for the last 6 years for our seniors in the District of Columbia not to pay any real property tax. I introduced to this government, the mayor's office, as well as the city council's offices, that there were 37 states at that time that said to our seniors, no longer do you have to pay any property tax, any real property tax. And that enabled the senior to transfer the generational wealth to their young, right? Now, I know the mayor's listening to me. I know the councilors listening to me, because everything that I've called on, before they did anything, they've done it this year.
Right.
They reduced the property tax from 5% to 2%. Still not good enough, because 2% on a $500,000 home, grandma still got to pay $10,000
plus the fees,
plus the medical expense, right? So it's not good enough. Mr. and Mrs. Government, you got to do better. The same thing I said when it's time for to pay the teachers, the cooks, and the janitors. Then they turn around and they tried to fool the minds of the people and said, we're paying the school staff. And it was the administrators that they gave that money to. 12% over 4 years.
Right.
The other things that we look at is when I complained about when I raised concern about the number of police officers that we didn't have and that we need, they came out with an announcement that 200 to 300 was going to be there. When crime was unacceptable, they said the violence interrupted program is be here. Let me say to our government, and these are the things that I talk about in my first 100 days. Take that money from the violence interrupted programs and put it into the vocational area.
They really don't need it. It's really not effective.
No.
You know, it has not been effective. We have had violence interruption programs around for a very long time. We have children of violence interrupters being murdered.
Yes.
We have violence interrupters themselves being murdered. Okay. When it comes to that type of thing, I think that we need more qualified people.
Yes.
You know, people that I don't think that the police should be coming to people's homes when we're having mental health crises, because that's why it always something bad happens, because the police officers don't know how to deal with a person that has a mental health crisis. Exactly. Yeah. And we don't need a violence interrupter there either.
Yes.
When it comes to a violence interrupter, I'm from the Barry administration. I grew up Southeast Berry Farms. You know what we used to do, what they used to do for us? They would come to our schools, pick us up on a van, and take us to places like American University, you know, different colleges. We had something called a Big Buddy program that was introduced by Mayor Barry. Okay. And I look forward to that every Wednesday as a kid, because it gave me a chance to be able to interact, know what college is about, you know, be around positivity, because that's what it's all about. When you in situations where you have no hope, that's just like our public housing, for instance. Okay. Public housing was never created to a place where they just going to put all low income people in this one place and that's it. It was supposed to be a place where multi income families there, people that have hope, where the people that's facing some issues can look and see the neighbor down the street, okay, or the man up the street who's the school teacher. You know, they can see something like that and have something to look forward to. We don't have that anymore. We need to go back to the old way of doing things. Like, I come from community engagement. That's what we used to do in Berry Farms. It was community engagement. Okay, I didn't. It's no way in the world that I can be down at Miss Shirley's house showing my ass and don't get it tore up. And then by the time on the way home, everybody down the road been to wore me out before I even got home and got the big shebang. Okay, but we need to go back to that. We need to, but we have to have a chance. We have to be given a chance.
I'm going to say before my time runs out that November 8th is the biggest day of the year, not for me, but for everyone in Washington, D.C., and that you have to be active. The only way we're going to change the faults in this city is that you get involved in this process. You can trust and believe me when I tell you, this is absolutely the biggest voting block of the century.
Right.
Because without this year and the right people in those seats, more and more median to low income people are going to get pushed out of this city, and you're not going to have a voice. So you need to vote for Fred Hill for council at large. There's 2 seats available.
That's right.
I need to be your first choice. For those of you who have another candidate that you want to vote for, then put me on your second. But they need to make sure that I'm there. I'll say this in closing. Someone asked me a week or so ago, who on the council is going to get me in? That's what they said. Who's going to get me in? And I looked at them and said, there's some 200,000 people beside me.
That's right.
Is who's going to get me in.
It's going to get you in.
These are the numbers of people who have already reached out and said, man, you're saying everything that we wish we could say.
That's right.
But they keep ignoring what we say. We have ANC commissioners right now that are saying to the government, it's illegal for you to just build in my community without my approval.
Right.
The neighbors don't want this here, Mr. and Mrs. Comcast. They don't want this here. That's over at the Warden Hotel.
No.
Okay. You all have been set up to where the government is going to do what it wants to do, irregardless of what you think, unless you stand up and vote. Find out who's responsible, get them out of there, and get some people in there, as Fred Hill will hold them accountable. I don't need 6 votes. Here's what needs to happen. when I present something that's going to be for the betterment of everyone in this city, and 6 say no, those 6 are going to be the ones on the block. Those 6 are going to be the ones that have to tell the rest of the people in the city why I'm not in support of this great, good opportunity for the people. Then you're going to have to understand, if they ignore you again like they've done in the past, you have one more piece of protection, and that's called recall the vote. It's not been used in this city because many people don't know. They wait the next 4 years, and in that 4 years, they've pulled so much away from you. You don't have the strength, the energy, or the resources.
Yeah.
So thank you all. I really appreciate this time. And I want to make sure that everybody understands tonight there is a Zoom meeting. Please go to my Facebook page, and you can
and
get
mine as well.
And you can see that. More importantly, next week, almost every day, there is a debate or forum being held. But for the first time in the history of this city, that's why I say to you, this race for at large is so big. For the first time in the history of this city, when it comes to elections, GWU, WJLA, Channel 7, is going to be hosting on October the 13th, next Thursday at 7 p.m., the first council at large debate televised. So everybody in the city will be able to see this. But there are other debates all along from the 11th all the way through the 23rd that you all will be able to see via Zoom, YouTube, or in person. So please get active, get involved, be a part of the change you want to see.
Tell them how they can donate. Okay.
Go to my webpage, Fred Hill, the number 4, Council at Large. The @ is AT. councilatlarge.com. And when you go to that webpage, you can click on the donate button, and you can donate anything up to $1,000 for my campaign. I say up to 1,000 because I really would rather have 100 people donate $10 than one person donate 100.
That's right.
Because that's 100 votes. That's what we need to understand. Your $5 donation, your $2 donation does the same thing in great numbers as the one person.
That's right.
Right. So don't get hung up on what the maximum is. Anything you can give right now helps us get the word out across the city, and helps the staff that's working with this campaign, the volunteers, get snacks, food, everything that we need to help keep this word going across the city, so that you can vote on November 8th. On October 3rd, which was yesterday or Monday, we had the release of the ballots were mailed out. So people are going to start to seeing them this week.
Yes.
When you get your
some of y'all, because y'all had it, I had people, my phone was ringing off the hook. Okay, when they did not see your name on the ballot. Okay.
During the primary.
Yeah, on the primary. They were going, and I was telling them, look, just if it's a little spot, he's an independent, but if it's a little spot down there, write it in. Or draw you a line and write it in.
Yeah.
Okay, just as simple as that.
And thank you all for those who did that. But now it's time to make it really count in the general election. So please get your ballot, color in Fred Hill on that oval, and we're gonna be some game changers. And I say we because it's not about me.
That's right.
I need us to go into that council as a team to show the rest of them it's not gonna go like they think it's gonna go. Thank you.
That's right. And we'll be back with some domestic violence education with Mr. Christopher Bonds. All right. That was great. Y'all, we are back. Y'all know October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, okay? And all throughout the month of October on Blaqrose Garden, we're going to be getting into the topic of domestic violence. So today, I have two special guests. I am so happy to have y'all. I'm going to let you introduce yourself first, and then the queen.
All right. Well, ladies first.
Thank you. My name is Renee Michelle. I'm a national advocate against domestic violence and survivor of domestic violence and sexual assault.
Okay.
All right. I'm the unorthodox style street minister, King Kali, God's #1 hype man, because I'm always turning up for the good Lord. I'm the founder of the Triangle Resource LLC, which is a resource for the community that has many different resources to the community, from mental health to spirituality to philanthropy. I mean, that's one of my main things is Operation Let Our Homies Ministries. This is what we do. We grinding in the trenches, spreading the word of God wherever we go. We're going to bring it to a doorstep near you. You can't run, you can't hide.
So domestic violence is a really, okay, we're in the pandemic, all right? And I know a lot now our children, our women have been at home, okay, with the abusers. And I just want to have this conversation. What makes this a topic for you? What got you into this topic and going, just being a part of this, bringing awareness?
Well, my trauma started early. When I share my story, I like to start off sharing a little bit about my childhood because that's where it started. As early as 5 is what I remember. I was raped, molested by several family members for several years, up into my teenage years. And at the ages of 11, 14, and 26, I was raped. As I got older, when I was younger, a lot of the older women would say to me, you're so grown, you're so hot. She's so, just say negative things about me. And they never knew. Nobody paid attention. Let me start there. As a child, I was one of 5. Nobody paid attention to me. Nobody saw that I went from this sweet little innocent girl to this grown, hot young lady. And that's what I want to start there by saying, please pay attention to your children.
Right.
Pay attention to your children, because most of my life was trauma because of the rape and the molestation and the incest. But at any rate, all of us as women, when we grow up, we want our knight in shining armor.
Yeah.
So I met this man I was in my late 20s, and I thought he was my knight in shining armor. He was so nice and sweet. He did everything, said the right things, held the door, did all the right things. And I thought he was going to take me away from my past hurt and trauma. Like I said, I thought he was going to be my knight in shining armor, but he ended up being more like a nightmare. I know we don't have a lot of time, so
Jesus Christ.
He was mentally, verbally, and emotionally abusive to me. And then the financial abuse came in as well. Then the physical abuse. And I promise you, I can remember the first time he hit me as if it was yesterday. I told him I wanted to go to the store. He said, go ahead and come right back, which was unusual because I couldn't even go to work without him coming to my job. He owned his own business, so he would sit at my job. I managed a restaurant lounge, and he would watch me. If anybody talked to me too long, he would start a physical altercation with them.
God Almighty.
It got to the point where he got barred from my job, so he started calling my job and telling me to leave the phone off the hook so he could hear everything that was going on. Needless to say, that didn't last. So he started coming back and standing outside of my job, waiting for me to get out. And, you would think that I would see or know the signs because I am also a second generation domestic abuse survivor. I grew up watching my dad abuse my mother, but I didn't. I honestly thought it was cute. And it became really uncute really fast.
Yeah.
That particular night, I told him I wanted to go to the store. He said, go ahead and come back. And I'm shocked that he, whatever. So I go to the store, I come back about 15, 20 minutes tops. I knock on the door where he lived with his brother, his sister-in-law, their brother-in-law, the sister, and their 2 kids who were 5 at the time. As soon as he opened the door, he immediately grabbed me by my hair and he drugged me past his sister, his brother, and their kids as they sat and watched television. And he drugged me into the room where he slept and he beat me bloody. Nobody got up. Nobody said anything. Nobody did anything. After he finished beating me, he grabbed me by my hair and he stood me up and he turned me around to him and he looked at me and he said, you know, you're not leaving me, right? And out of fear, I said, no. He said, good, because if you do, this is what's going to happen. He took a gun and he put it to my head and he pulled the trigger. He began from that day forth making Russian roulette a regular part of my life to keep me in fear.
Oh my God.
And it worked. I was so afraid of this man. Anything he told me to do, I did it. Now the cat's out the bag, see, because now I see who he really is.
Yes.
So the beatings started coming more often. He started beating me at Metro, at the bus stations and everything. This one particular time, we went to Union Station, and he would get an attitude out of nowhere. He started walking ahead of me, and I'm walking. So this guy thinks I'm walking by myself, and he starts talking to me, and I'm telling him, no, like, please get away from me. He turns around and he sees the guy talking to me and he runs back. So the only thing that I could think was run. So I started running towards the guy in the booth, the Metro guy. So once I get to him, I said, please call the police. My boyfriend is beating me. He comes up behind me and says, oh, don't pay any attention to her. She forgot to take her medication today. The guy's looking at me and he's looking at him like, he didn't know who to believe, and I'm pleading. Right. I'm pleading with him. Please, listen, if you don't call the police and something happens to me, you're going to be held accountable. The guy said, look, dude, if you're going to leave, I'm calling the police. He called the police. My aunt beat them there. Let me just say that. I ended up leaving with my aunt. For 2 days, let me say this. He told me that if I ever left him, that he would kill me. If I got my family involved, not only would he kill me, but he would kill them. And if I ever called the police, that he would kill me. So I've already violated. At this point, I'm scared. I live in this apartment by myself, which he would break into when he felt like it. So these 2 days went by. I walk into my apartment and get off work and I'm looking around my apartment to make sure everything was cool. The first day goes by, the second day goes by, everything is fine. So I'm getting kind of comfortable, like, okay, the police scared him off. The third day, I come in from work and I walk into my apartment. I do the regular look around and I go back into my room. As I open my door, he's in my room, kneeling naked with candles lit around my room and his gun on my dresser. The only thing that I could say was, dear God, please take care of my family because I'm going to die tonight. And let me say this to you all. I didn't have much faith in God because I was like, where was God at? Yeah, where was God at when I was being molested? And where was he when I was being raped? And where is he now? So the only thing with little faith I had, I prayed that whole night. And I asked God, I was specific. I said, God, please, if you get me out of this situation alive, I will do anything. I laid there, did whatever he told me to do. The next day, I'm sitting in his window. Our apartments are diagonally across from each other. I could see my apartment from his. Now, let me tell you about isolation. For a whole year, nobody came to visit me.
Good God Almighty.
I'm looking out of my window, and I'm going to say God placed me in that window that day because I'm looking out of the window, and I see 2 females at my door. And I'm like, oh, my God. He's in the bathroom. I said, I'm going to run to my apartment, and I'll be right back. Again, he said, go ahead. I ran like a freed slave. When I got to my apartment, they were pulling off. I still didn't know who it was. I chased the car, and I banged on the window. It was 2 of my cousins that decided, let's go check on Renee today. I said, don't ask any questions, grab anything that looks important and run. We ran into my apartment. We each grabbed a handful of my clothing and I ran for my life. And I didn't look back. But when I left, I didn't leave alone. I eventually found out I was pregnant by my abuser. I now have a beautiful 30-year-old daughter by my abuser. And as I sit here with you all today, I suffer from grand mal epileptic seizures due to severe blows to my head at the hands of my abuser. But I'm alive.
That's right.
I'm alive.
To tell
I'm
your
alive.
testimony
Yeah, and it's
to
not for
save
nothing.
some other young girl.
Yes, and let me
Or
tell you
boy.
exactly, exactly, because it's not one-sided.
That's right.
So on that day when they flew me away to Baltimore shock trauma, they lost me. So I know for a fact that God did not blow air back into my lungs for me to sit back and be quiet. So that day when I promised God, if he got me out of there alive, he kept his promise to me, and I've been keeping my promise to him ever since. I'm now, like I mentioned, a national advocate against domestic violence, a speaker. I have 2 books on Amazon. One is a bestseller. I'm working on my 3rd book now. I've spoken at the House of Delegates. I'm part of the reason 2 of the bills have been passed against domestic violence. I'm not playing.
Yeah. What would you tell a young girl, because domestic violence is on an all-time high.
Yes.
We have is with these younger children. These kids are going through it. And I'm seeing some stories. I'm an advocate for the missing and murdered. So I hear a lot of stories. Okay. And some of them are centered around domestic violence and getting into these relationships. What would you tell a young girl?
I would tell them, first of all, I would tell parents and children as well, it starts off at home. Don't let your kids play, boys and girls play fight and all that. No, it's not cool for a boy, a man, or anybody to put their hands on a young lady. That's where it starts at. So we need to nip that in the bud, first of all. And secondly, I would tell, because I speak, Queen has me, and shout out to Queen. I love Queen. That's one of my mentors and my sister. She's had me, I've spoken in just about every school in DC, PG County, and I just started speaking in Charles County as well. When I talk to these kids, a lot of these children, especially the ones that are the bad ones, the ones that they say are the bad kids in the class. By the time I finished talking to this one group of kids, the bad child, as they say, walked up to me in tears.
Yeah.
It's a reason why these children have behaviors. He said his father was abusing could I give him a card for his mother?
Right.
So what I would say to these children is, please, if I can make it through everything that I've endured, molestation, incest, rape, being beat to death, you can make it through anything. And also talk to your parents. If you can't talk to your parents, talk to somebody. Talk to me. It's so many advocates like yourself, all of us here. There's somebody that can help you with whatever situation that you're going through. So that's what I would advise.
Thank
them.
you so much.
You're welcome.
For just telling your testimony. We have a
You're
call
welcome.
in. Yeah. Okay.
Call in.
Hello.
Hello, it's Queen Afee.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing great.
Hi, Queen.
Yes, this was I was a little in shock, but I'm glad this is good right here.
Thank you.
All right. I
And
feel the energy.
Yeah, I want to thank you for, just riding with me. This is my first show. And
Wow.
okay, everything is perfect. But I ain't been on air for 3 weeks. Okay, so I got some catching up to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to chime in and just tell Renee, Michelle, and Gary, you guys are doing an amazing job.
Thank you, Queen.
Being at the forefront sharing your story,
That's right.
your personal business, your darkest secrets
Mm-hmm.
with the community.
With the community.
Mhm.
That's
And
right.
understand that you might not see it now, but it's coming. You know, where you are literally saving people from your story.
That's right.
So I thank y'all. Thank you, Monroe TV, for sponsoring us this year. And of course, you, Black Rose,
Of course.
keep doing what y'all doing, man. And let's keep on going in domestic violence
Yes,
That's right.
all month long. We got to be talking about it,
that's right.
not afraid to reach out and speak up about
That's
it,
right.
Mhm.
and not even care who don't like it.
Who don't like it?
Go.
That's right. That's
We
right.
going hard all this month.
All
Yep.
this month.
That's right.
We
That's
surely
right.
is. And
Yep.
thank you
I love
so
y'all.
much.
Keep,
We love you too.
We love you.
Yeah.
keep being great. Keep being
You
great.
too. Love
Thank
you.
you. Love you.
Mhm. Wow.
Mr. King. Thank you.
Yeah.
Y'all have, I'm telling you,
Mm.
this has been wonderful. I want you to introduce yourself and let's get into it.
All right. Well, like I said earlier, unorthodox style street minister King Kali, but my real name is Gary Henson. I work for the federal government. I'm an Army veteran. I work at Fort Belvoir Army Community Hospital. I'm a chef. That's what I like to do. And now I'm a minister. And now I go around in the community and I serve God. I got a little story I could like to share with y'all since we on early childhood trauma. I get a moment. I'm not gonna get too much into my testimony because I can drag that thing out. But I suffer from early childhood trauma, and the reason why I'm gonna bring that up because it's very, very important that ladies and gentlemen, if you out there listening and have children, all right, I suffer from early childhood trauma as far as back as like early adoption, separation from the mother, of course, is trauma. Dealing with racism from whites and blacks in this community, growing up in PG County in Southeast, is rough being an Asian American man because I'm Filipino and Italian. And that was rough right there in trauma on its own.
Right.
Our early age of around 9 years old, I suffered from sexual molestation from older teenage women, well, teenage girls and older women as I progressed on. These are all forms of trauma. Around 11 years old, brother that I had, only had him and a couple more people that was with, caught a situation out in Fort Washington and got sent up top for life in prison. So
I'm not stopping you,
Yeah.
but I want to go back to what you said. Sexually molested by older girls
yeah,
and women.
yeah.
A lot of people don't look at that as a form of, sexually molestation. They don't. And, young boys,
Mhm.
they say, oh, it's like a notch in the belt.
Now let me tell you how.
But it's
What it
very
really does.
traumatizing. Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you what happens for real, because I'm at 43 years old now, trying to figure out this thing called love. See, sexual morality was put on me at the early age of 9. It destroyed me, man. Any faith that I had in a woman at the time was lost. Any trust from the mother being left, then sexual immorality was put on from older women. Just imagine what my relationship has been with women growing up. This is a love and hate relationship. I want to focus on, I pulled out those vital points of my early childhood trauma because all of this kind of ties in together. At the early age of 11, after my brother left, I formed alcoholism, ladies and gentlemen. It sat on me for 30 years. I just became sober about 2 years ago, thanks to the grace of God. He gave me a spiritual divine intervention, and he came and rescued me in my weakest moment, because God shows his true strength in our weakest moments. And that's scripture, ladies and gentlemen. So let me just get into the whole thing of it, because I want to make sure that this is educational. All right. Queen Afi says, catch it at the dinner table. Have those hard conversations with your children. See, young men and women, they suffer in silence, okay? All right, they're suffering in silence and keep all these emotions and all these traumas bottled up. You know what happens when you bottle those traumas up, right? You start expressing them in a negative way. Look, early childhood trauma not expressed in a positive way will be expressed in a negative way. And those negative ways are alcoholism, drug addiction, violence, lies, deceit, manipulation, narcissism. These are morals that you start thinking that who you are. These are characteristics you start building, and that's what you think you are. Then that pressure starts to turn to sadness, then sadness to depression, depression into anger, and anger into violence. Then you need an outlet. The outlet is what? Drugs and alcohol. So you start using that. Early age of 12, suffering from all this trauma, I need to get away. So I found out, me being in the streets, because I said, my brother went up top, I ain't had nobody. Dope boy pulled me and he taught me the game. See, I was here able to react in a way though it was seem positive because I'm able to express myself violently and doing violent things, which was good in this place, which at the same time saved me because this is the only family that I really knew at the time.
Right.
So by the grace of God, I was able to take all this in, but I pulled on them negative traumas and stuff, and I covered them up with alcoholism. At 12 years old, I took my first real hard drink around 12 years old, and I was an alcoholic for 30 years. It sat on me and crippled me into adulthood. That's just the alcoholism, ladies and gentlemen. The sexual immorality. You're talking about a kid that was walking around at 13 years old with a mentality that he wanted to have babies and children by any woman that he could have sex with because he didn't want to be abandoned. I was left when I was a child. This is called trauma. You hear me? I was left as a child, so I wanted to have children with women as much as I could. I was already having sex at 10 and 11. So I started chasing older women because I couldn't do that. Then I had drugs. So you know what the drugs allowed me to do with the older women. So this is all, look, I'm talking about it because this is really, really happening. This is trauma. You're talking about a man that has 3 baby mothers, been married. Look, sexual immorality, if not expressed and not talked about, not caught at the dinner table, will cripple you to in your adulthood. I'm a living, active example of it. I'm still trying to figure this thing out. I don't trust really nobody. The crazy thing about alcoholism is when you snap back into reality and you come back to that mind frame of where you were. So this whole thing of having normal conversations with people and having these normal talks about trusting and all these great things about meeting somebody halfway and compromise all the healthy things in a relationship. I don't know them right now. I'm still figuring them out. Only by the grace of God, I'm able to do the things that I'm doing because like I said, he came in my darkest moment. He delivered me. And now I started to heal. And as my relationship started to heal, I started to figure things out. And I met other like-minded individuals like Queen Afi and Domestic Violence Wears Many Tags, Pastor Daryl Harrison and Daryl Harrison and Crime Victims Foundation. We got Overseer Ann Coles, Kingdom Life Outreach Ministries. These people have taught me different ways to start expressing my trauma in a positive way. Remember earlier I said a negative way was what? Alcohol, drugs, all of those things. A positive way. Let's get into it. Art, dancing, singing, family, God, prayer, love. These are the positive ways to express it. But if you don't really pay attention to your children, because we got to tie all of this up, early childhood trauma, catch it at the dinner table, have the hard conversations, because through the man rules, young men and young boys are taught to keep their mouth shut. Men don't cry, men don't do this. So they experience a trauma and they'll keep it bottled up. And I guarantee you, if it's not expressed in a positive way, it will be expressed in a negative way. All right, these are the type of things I came on here to express about because they cripple you into your adulthood, ladies and gentlemen. All right. So first thing I can say to anybody out there suffering with some of this, 1, find somebody you trust and you love. Bring it to them. Don't try to do this by yourself. You can't. 2, talk about it. Share. Thank you, Queen Afi. Yeah. First time I ever shared was a safe space segment 1.5 years ago. Look at me now. I'm out here really, really sharing my testimony, really sharing my story, really making an impact, trying to save lives. So hopefully if you're listening, your child, find somebody you trust, tell that person, start working together, start talking about it, and then y'all can build from there. Not saying exactly where to go, but y'all will build from there, and together y'all be able to accomplish that. Do not let us suffer and build up inside, because it will cripple you into drug addiction, sexual immorality, alcoholism, bad language. I mean, the list goes on. I mean, I could talk about stuff like this all day. I mean, I didn't really know which way to go about it because, you know, we had a lot of different things brought up. And if you have any questions to ask me or pertaining to it, I would love to answer them. Like, we got to get the information out there to the people.
What I want to know is, how can children, you know, what would be a safe haven for a child that's going through something like that? Somebody that's right now listening to your story, listening to you describe yourself as well, listening to you describe what's going on. Once they hear it, where do they go for help?
Well, I'm gonna tell you right now, you can go to 1-855-27-REMAP, which is my 1-800 number, and I'm out here trying to give out advice and help to anybody I can. So you can pick that phone up and call me, and we can start going in the proper directions. 1-855-27-REMAP. We changing mindsets, aspects, and perspectives. It's the triangle, baby. We out here grinding for God. We're trying to help anybody we can who, hey, listen, back to what I was saying about the BS movement. I created this thing called the BS movement. Sounds kind of tricky, but it's called breaking the silence. Ladies and gentlemen, how are we going to learn anything from one another if we keep our mouths shut? Let's open our mouths. It's called the BS movement. We're grinding. Share your stories, share your testimony, share your experiences, so our children and generations to come can learn from this stuff right here. You can't learn nothing if you keep your mouth shut. So yeah, go to hotline numbers, find resources. Like I said, find you somebody you trust and you love. Most important thing, take it to prayer and take it to God, because God is real and God is right there with you. I promise, and I promise you, God never turns his back on us. It's always us that turns his back, but he's always waiting with an unchanging hand. God is great. You hear me? God will turn your pain into a purpose, ladies and gentlemen. We ain't suffering in silence no more. We BS mode. It's the breaking the silence out here. Let's go.
There you go.
Yeah. So reach out to resources and find somebody you love and trust.
Give your social media
All right.
outlets.
Okay, real quick, before I gotta get up out here, I do want to raise a couple of awareness on a couple other things too. But King Kali 27 on my IG, my Facebook is Gary G. Kali Henson. You can go to info@thetriangleresource.com. Like I said, 1-855-27-REMAP. Have a website, www.thetriangleresource.com, up and running. It's revamped, moving, we're grinding. Like I said, nonprofit organizations are coming together and banding together. We out here grinding for God. Got to give a shout out to all those ones. We got an up and coming event on 10/8 with domestic violence. Daryl Harrison Crime Victim Foundations in Baltimore. Hit me up if you want that. Then on 10/15 next Saturday after that, so Stop the Killing If You're Willing. Pet Rally for Peace in the Streets. We out here grinding. It's a lot of people, organizations, the DC Dream Center. I'm about to go teach DC Dream Center children small quantity cooking classes right now, inner city small quantity cooking classes as soon as I leave here at the Douglas Knoll Community Center. So give a shout out to Ernest Cloven, DC Dream. We're making moves. We just left Langston Lane last year. Now we moving into Douglas Knowles. Let's get it, man. We trying to spread positivity. But this is the type of stuff you can do. That's my tag. Check your tag, please.
Okay. I'm Renee Michelle on everything. It's spelled RENE with the accent, MICHELLE on Instagram, LinkedIn, everything. I have my own nonprofit as well. It's called paintopurpose.org. I have a lot going on, so I have a lot going on, because in October they act like abuse only happens in October, but we doing this thing all year round,
right? Year round.
So, but at
too.
any rate, go to my page, Renee Michelle, on Facebook, Instagram, everything, and that's where you can find everything that I have upcoming.
Nice.
Thank you.
Nice.
Thank you so much.
You're
This was
welcome.
wonderful.
Thank you for having us.
Hey, just to throw a little bit more out there while I got a little airtime. On Thursday nights around 7:15, there's a new live video podcast TV show called What's Up With That? Truth Not Tradition. It's a Christian-based show, and they're holding world topics about things that are happening in your community right under your eyes. I'm talking about organizations like BIMLA. If you ain't never heard of BIMLA, you better, it's going to scare you. Boy, man, legislation of America. They're trying to pass pedophilia, ladies and gentlemen. It's not a game. All right, it's serious. We got,
I would like to have you back to talk about that.
it's a lot going on. It's a world topic segment. They're trying to remove the Bible out of schools too. Texas already started. It's a lot of different things going on. We're in a post-Christian era. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to push for the people, saving souls, spreading the testimonies, the gospels, the information, everything that we can to help the people out. And God is great. It's amazing, man. He turned my pain into real purpose. You hear me?
That's right. And I thank y'all
You're welcome.
so much.
Thank you.
I have to have you back though.
Yeah.
Because we're gonna have it, we need to have these conversations.
Definitely.
Okay?
Yeah, same with
Especially
y'all. I
now.
bring y'all on my show too, because I have a community outreach segment on that highlights community advocates, the organizations, what they're doing, what they're moving in the community. So I'll be seeing y'all coming on my show real soon as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I
Looking forward to
appreciate
it.
that. We're gonna take a quick break and we'll be back with Miss Tanya.
Queen Alpha, yeah, we love you, baby.
Yes, Queen. Mwah.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Three, two, one.
Y'all, we are back. I hope y'all like the first half of the show. That was good.
Yes, that was
Those
good.
testimonies
Good.
are, I mean, I need that type of stuff for my listening audience. I need for people to know that it's okay,
Right.
you know, to don't suffer in silence though.
Exactly.
Don't suffer in silence. It's okay. It's nothing to be ashamed of, but don't suffer in silence.
And,
You
and,
know?
and the audience, remember that you like the speakers were saying, you have to really pay attention to your children, their moods and what they're doing. And remember that there are things that you can look for. If you see them having trouble concentrating, there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
If they're some little kids say my stomach hurt, my head doesn't feel good, when they mean something in their brain is not right and they're upset about it. So pay attention to that. Sleeplessness is a big example. And that they are easily distracted. And if they're not concentrating, if all of a sudden a good student's grades are failing, those kinds of things you want to pay attention to, and that gives you a hint that something is going on.
Yeah,
And
it's very important. Hello.
right.
Yeah, it's very important.
And give them opportunities to express themselves and to talk about anxiety, and as well give them some tools to use and use yourself as examples to the degree that you can't, or someone else that they know or they trust.
Yes.
And say, see how they handled it. We can do the same thing, and give them some tools that they need. It's Anxiety is more than just worries. It can influence their classroom behavior and many other. It can
It's just a
actually
lot
disable
to it.
you.
And we're going to be getting into a lot of this. This is Domestic Violence Month. I plan on having a very big panel when it comes to talking about these issues. So we're going to cover all of those things.
And I'm going to say this, Rose, because I know we have another very important guest in the room with us today. Before we end this topic, I want to give the children and parents hope. Because what we see so much in the media are people like King Cully, and Renee Michelle, and everybody wonders, is there success afterwards?
Right.
And you go, well, yeah, they're advocating, but does anybody else get out?
Right.
I want to remind everybody, you can get out. The first African American woman to become a billionaire in this country, Oprah Winfrey, suffered from childhood trauma.
Right.
She was raped as a child. She's a billionaire.
She's a billionaire.
Owns her own TV network.
Yeah.
So that's not the end of your story.
No, it's not.
And I'm going to bring it closer to home. I haven't told everybody my entire story, but like our previous guest, I've suffered childhood trauma. We'll say that for another day, but I'm here.
That's right.
And
I
y'all
have
know me.
myself. I have been through childhood trauma as well, and that's why, having a platform is very
Yep.
important. Speaking your truth. I walk in my truth every
Every
single day.
You can be
Every single
successful
day.
in
And
spite of.
try to show young women, that anything is possible. Sometimes we have to, this is important to have this platform, to be here, to give out information because it's important.
Yep.
People need to hear it, and they need to hear the truth, and they need to hear from people who are not afraid to walk in their truth.
Exactly.
Okay, because we are the voice for the voiceless.
Yes.
Miss Sweat.
Yes, ma'am.
You know,
she gonna get me in
girl.
trouble.
Yes. Oh,
What's going on?
what's going on? It's been a minute.
Oh, look, everything going on. Girl, everything going on.
It's been a minute.
Because we always talk politics.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna say this to our family, because y'all like family to me.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Hill hit on some very, very important topics today in his segment.
Yeah.
And while he was focused on the District of Columbia and his run for city council at large, ain't nothing different than what we're dealing with right here in Prince George's County.
Nothing different.
We got a whole lot going on here in Prince George's, and we're going to talk about it over the next few weeks and months.
Mm-hmm.
But, man, it's still hopping and popping. And I'm going to keep the heat on them. They throwing our men out of the men's shelter. They on the street in 50-degree weather. I'm asking the county, what's going on with that? Our brothers have no place to go. Unacceptable.
Right.
We still have our folks getting kicked out of their apartments.
Mm-hmm.
They were told they were approved for emergency rental assistance program during the COVID. They should have gotten up to 18 months of their rent paid. Landlords kicking them out on the street.
Right.
Some landlords taking them to court. Hundreds. I watched it in landlord-tenant court. Hundreds of people being evicted. Some landlords have gotten so bold in Prince George's County, they're not going to court. They just roll up now and tell you got to go and help you put your stuff out on the street. That's illegal. That's called a self-help eviction. That's illegal in the state of Maryland. You can't do that. So it's hopping and popping.
Yeah.
But the show ain't about me today. So.
Well, it actually is, because before we get into our special guest, I want you to tell people about some new developments. We're going to get really, really into it next week, but I want you to tell them, because that's why we're here.
Yes, man, that's why we're here.
Okay.
Okay, I'll tell it.
Yes.
We talked about this, I think back in August, September timeframe. The community has decided that they don't want what they see on the draft ballot in Maryland.
That's right.
And I'm gonna tell you all, it's your right. If you see something on the ballot you're not happy with it, there's a space to write it in. You have the right to write in any name you want to write in. Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck. You can write in Donald Trump if you want. You can write in Jack the Ripper. You can write in whatever you want. Now, I'll also tell you this, and I cannot campaign as a write-in candidate. The laws of the state of Maryland do not allow that, because I ran in the primary as a Democratic candidate for nominee, and I lost. Now, there's some questions about that loss, and we can't get access to the paper ballots to prove that loss really wasn't a loss. But there's some issues there. Yet and still, the law prevents me from running as a certified write-in candidate. I've had community members asking me day in and day out, if I write your name in, is that okay? And I have to say, under the laws, yes, you have the right to vote for whomever you want to vote for.
That's right.
I cannot file a certificate of candidacy and campaign as a write-in candidate, but there is nothing in the law that prevents the voters from writing in even my name, if that's what you choose to do. It's your right, not mine.
That's right.
Doesn't belong to the state of Maryland. May present a very interesting question for the state of Maryland if I end up getting the majority of write-in votes. It'd be interesting to see how in hell they deal with that. But yes, you have the right to write in whatever name you'd like. And if you write in my name, I've always told you, I'm here to serve you. I accept the call. I ain't going nowhere. And as long as I'm still here, I'm going to keep running my mouth and I'm going to keep fighting the fight because it's about the people. And I know my Prince Georgians are getting shafted day in and day out, and it's got to stop.
Yes, it did. We had 65% of Prince George's County residents did not even vote. Okay. So that right there proves to me too, it shows two things to me. We lost hope,
Yes.
or the people just waiting for the primaries. I mean, the generals
Right.
to show up and show out. And that's what I'm praying for, because I have this platform to introduce the candidates to the people, to my listening audience, because it's very important, because I want them to know that there is hope.
Yes.
There is hope. I want them to understand, because we have been so just miseducated and misinformed when it comes to the political parties, okay? And the separation,
Yes.
okay? But one thing's for certain, two things for sure. When you're talking about the Democratic Party, it's not even looking good right now. So there is hope, okay? Understand general elections is November the 8th.
Yes.
If you would like to write Tanya Sweat in, it would be a line available to do so.
Yes, there is a line available. The ballot is already published for public viewing on the Maryland State Board of Elections website. You can see it.
Okay.
Right now, for county executive in Prince George's County, there's one name printed on that ballot. One name. That does not mean you have to select
You have to select that name. That's
because
right.
Right under that name, it also says write in, and it's blank. So if you sit down at the computer, you can type in a name. If you do the paper ballot, you can take your black blue pen and write in a name. You have the right, RIGHT, under the law to vote for whomever you like to vote for.
Right.
Exercise your right to vote, because that is the power you have in this country. And I have to agree with my sister Blaqrose here. I'm a registered Democrat. I ran in the primary as a registered Democrat, and I was cheated.
Yeah.
Unfairly cheated. I will never forget, as long as I live, that the official report says I got 3,979 votes in July. And we all know that's a lie.
Yeah.
And the number of people who have called me, emailed me, texted me, run into me in the store, tracked me down on the street, says that number makes no damn sense.
Well, I mean, I said that with knowing that 65% of Prince George's County residents didn't even vote, and the numbers that they had did not match up.
Right.
Okay. Ray Charles can see that.
Yes.
Okay. So.
And because of the times we live in now, and I'm gonna be straight up with y'all, I'm not a Donald Trump fan, but I understand. And there are people who don't even want me to talk about what happened during the primary because they don't want me to be compared to him. But let me tell you something. I don't say what I say out of a gut reaction. I say what I say based on facts. I have a sworn statement saying that damn election was rigged before we ever started voting. I have a signed sworn affidavit to that fact. And the law in Maryland was changed in 2022 to prevent me from getting to those paper ballots to prove what they actually did.
Yeah.
I have a letter from the State Board of Elections saying, we got your complaint about election fraud, but that's not within our jurisdiction. Why don't you refer it to the law enforcement agency who has that jurisdiction to investigate it? I've talked to the office of the state prosecutor, who is mandated by law to investigate public corruption and election fraud. And I know that has become political too, because they work for the governor of the state of Maryland.
Wow.
So they can't go but so far.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? I know that the evidence exists to show that I legally, rightfully won the primary. The entity that holds that evidence does not have jurisdiction in the state of Maryland. They're not going to release it to me. And they think I'm stuck. They don't know me. They don't know me. I'm going to keep talking. And I'm not a Donald Trump. You want to see the affidavit? I got it. I'll put it out there for the world to see it. I'm not a Donald Trump. I'm not going to assume. This is fact.
This is facts. Yeah.
And unfortunately, this is the Democratic Party in the state of Maryland that is benefiting from this foolishness and keeping people in bondage. That has to stop.
That's right. Tanya, give them your website before we get into our next interview.
TanyaSweat.com. It's still up and it's still running. Hadn't put anything out there lately, but some stuff will be coming real soon. I keep it popping and live on my social media, though. On Facebook, I am at Tanya Sweat PG. On Twitter and Instagram is at Tanya Sweat PGC. Every day, I'm letting y'all know what's happening in the community because you need to be educated. You have to be aware of what's happening to your neighbors. And just because you riding in your Benz and your Beamer, just because you sitting in your $500,000 house thinking it ain't me, you might want to check your tax bill. Because, baby, if you in a new development, it is you. You getting raped in your pocketbook. Your wealth is being transferred right on up out of this county. And you don't even know it.
You don't even know it.
So please don't rest on your laurels and think, I'm good because my bills are paid. I'm good because my kid got on $100 sneakers. Because, baby, the law, they using state law to rape us all. You got to stop it.
We're going to take a quick break and we'll be back with candidate for DC Mayor, Miss Stacia Hall. All right.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
We are back and in the studio today for my first show. Okay. I'm going to keep on throwing it out there, y'all, because thank you, Monroe TV, for making this easy for me. Like, this is big league. I don't even, I went from one thing to another and I just feel at home. And I want to thank you for that. And yes, but in the studio, I have my special guest, Miss Stacia Hall, candidate for DC Mayor, Republican Party. All right, introduce yourself.
Thank you so much, Blaqrose, for having me, Tanya. It's a pleasure to be here today. I appreciate you ladies welcoming me to sit and chat with you and to talk to the audience about what's going on in DC. I am a mother of two, single mother of two. Some time ago, I had to turn to welfare to take care of me and my children. And so rather than it helping me, it got me deeper and deeper in debt. And so I made the decision one day that I'm gonna fight my way off welfare, going from, I lived in the projects, homeless shelter, and I fought hard and I went from poverty to prosperity. And so now I can live a life that I would say that the Lord desired me to live, just a humble, quiet life, but no dependency on the government. And so now I am standing up to run for mayor because DC is at a point where we need a righteous change.
Right.
It has to be like a radical turnaround with that city because we are losing.
Right.
We are losing.
Mhm.
Okay, so it's it was just my God's heart, His words to my heart, and I listened, and I
That's right.
came off the sideline.
How long have you been a member of the Republican Party?
Well, I was actually a Democrat for many years. And so a lot of the Democrat views, although there are some that are good, I held to those for a long time. And what made me decide that it was time to change is when I saw all of the division and the bickering, when I saw the bickering and the division. But what hurt the most is when I would hear the Democrats build up the African American community and then
Pull the rug from under
tear them
us.
down.
Okay.
And it hurt too bad. And I said, I'm gonna go ahead and do some more research. And then I learned that the Republican Party is the party that fought for us to be free in 1865. But today the Republican Party needs some tweaking, and some repair. But I said, you know what? Maybe I'll be the change for even the Republican Party. So to help get it back on track within the Black community. And so that's been since 2019. Republican since 2019.
Okay, work experience since adulthood.
Well, I was born and raised a singer, and on the stage, an actress, and anything that dealt with getting in front of the camera and entertaining people and bringing joy. So I, for many years, sang professionally. I also did stage plays, did some little magazine stuff. So I stayed really busy with that and earned a good living. I retired officially from the stage in 2015 and went on to work in sales, marketing, as well as recruiting, to my current role as senior rental consultant with Court Business Services, a Berkshire Hathaway company. So, yep.
Right.
So worked in problem solving, managerial, reforming type of work.
And that's gonna come in handy for
Yeah.
government.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Okay, problem solving.
Yeah.
All right, 'cause we gonna definitely need that.
Problem solving is one thing that my manager and the court, the division where I work, which is the rental, furniture rental, they leaned on me heavily for problem solving because we would always have a customer where the situation was so tricky and convoluted that others within the same office were just perplexed about how they were going to fix this. And all I do is just get on the phone with them or get face to face with them and just begin to be on their level. Just get on their level and encourage them through the tone of my voice and the words, and just get them to relax and calm down. Don't be so angry. And just kind of work through and fixed a lot of stuff. So that is the reputation I gained, problem solver.
Well, and that's a great skill to have. Very good. You need that in government. Tricky question though, I'm gonna ask you, and it's not that I'm trying to play gotcha. I'm a lawyer, practice law in the government for 20 of my 25 years. And running a government can be a tricky business. It's all about problem solving. It's all about compromising and working with others. One thing I've noticed though with entrepreneurs who come into the government, one problem they have is the rigidity and the bureaucracy of government.
Mhm.
How do you plan to deal with that?
Well, if the time is right for a real public servant
Mhm.
to rise up and do the work.
Right.
Not a career politician.
Mhm.
Angela Davis said that what this world needs, what this nation needs, is unemployed politicians. So I'll have no experience as a career politician.
And I'm glad.
I'm a public
hear that.
servant. I want to first of all, I'll have the best team around, honest, compassionate, experienced individuals. But I will not, because I'm afraid of, I fear God. I fear God, and I know that this is from God to do the right thing for the people. But I will be focused as our other mayor
Mhm.
from the past.
Mhm.
Our other mayor from the past. No, the one that is the mayor for life. Yeah, I like to do a lot
Mhm.
of what he did. Those things that are good.
Yeah.
Because I call myself, and a lot of people agree, fearless as a lion.
Mhm.
Gotcha.
So not interested in pleasing the ones with the money.
Awesome.
Because I got a lot of money. It's in heaven.
Yeah.
I got a lot.
And you don't foresee any challenges with the laws that are in place?
I do see
And-
challenges.
Because
Yeah.
the country is built upon freedom. Everybody has personal freedom. And so there are boundaries that the government has to abide by to avoid encroaching upon the freedoms of the citizens. Our brother Donald Trump got in trouble because he don't respect the law.
Mhm.
He
Yeah.
didn't respect those boundaries. Excuse me. Do you foresee any trouble with those boundaries that are legally in place to
Mhm.
keep the government from going too far one way or the other?
Well, as the leader, of a city or manager of a
Mhm.
city, I can always rely and ask for the help of the Congress, because they are the oversight.
Mhm.
So those laws that are in place, first you got to go in and you got to see those laws, and you got to see how they truly benefit the people. Because from what we're experiencing in DC, that there's really nothing in place that benefits us, because nothing's really transparent. So we see the law, we see the municipality, we see these things, but are they being utilized? Are they being executed as they should? And so currently we see a lot of laws not being adhered to. They are being broken.
You're right.
They are being broken.
You have a point
And I
there.
can bring up one in particular. They are being broken. And so because people can begin to feel like they above the law, they above God,
Mhm.
and so they do what they do. And so the people don't really know what to do. They
Right.
become hopeless because they don't understand, why is this person breaking the law? What can we do to change this dynamic? So I would want to be the kind of leader, the kind of mayor that goes in and sees, what in the world is this system? These are the laws. Why is this system broken? Why is there more laws being created to fix situations and more money being spent?
Mhm.
I would want to get to that first and understand why we can't just get in order in that city. All the metrics have gone backwards.
Given the present demographics, how will the Republican Party reach out to the independents, African Americans who are still Democrats, in large numbers. Other communities of color, including some Latinos.
Well, we've encountered some really interesting things in DC, and there are enough of them that bridges the gap, that brings
Mhm.
us to a common um, goal. And one of them is the rights of the parents. There have been some laws put in place that can literally uh, cause the authority, the adult, to go to the child about medicine. And if the child is found to be able to understand and comprehend the thing that needs to be done, then that child can say, okay, I agree to it and receive medication. So these are laws that are absolutely they're far too radical. These laws are just canceling the parent out of the decision making process altogether. So that's one of the big matters that is going on in DC, that a lot of the about it's about 40,000. It's a number that's very significant of children that will not be able to go to school because they are not vaccinated. And the vaccine that is needed is not even FDA approved.
Right.
And so that is not DC or the teachers union. That's not their decision. That's the decision of the parent.
Right.
And so the parent makes the best decision for their families, for their children, education, for welfare, for money, for medicine, all of it. And that's an area that the DC government should stay out of, and they do not stay out of. Violence is another one. The economy, the fact that the infrastructure is just completely dysfunctional. So there are those things that all sides are going to agree upon.
Right.
And that's important when going out to reach the Latinos, the African Americans, the white Americans, all of them. Those things are very important, which those things I just mentioned: education, the parents' rights, and violence, and also the how inflation has really had taken a toll on the economy there, and the gentrification.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what do you see as the top 3 issues for the District of Columbia in this election cycle?
Well, one of them is the housing. The housing, we have housing programs that are so you don't understand them. You don't hear about them. You don't know where to go, and when you go, you don't get the answers you need. Our housing is in trouble there. When it comes to paying the rent, there's about 43,000 families in DC that pay over 50% of their income towards rent.
Right.
And sometimes I even feel like a poor rich child, because it really did the inflation and the rise in prices has really begun to affect our finances. And so those families that have to use more than half of their income to pay rent, then DC holds the 9th place for having highest poverty rates. And so
and we're 41 when it comes to education.
Absolutely. And so that's pretty despicable for the nation's capital. Nation's capital really should be the leading city, the beacon of hope. It should be like Jerusalem means city of peace. DC should really be a good place for people to come and find refuge. Like I believe it was at once. you know, when it was Chocolate City.
Mhm.
But now it's really totally out of whack.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Now, the mayor just announced a program where she's investing $10 million into
Mhm.
helping African Americans purchase homes in the district. What are your thoughts on that new program?
Well, I mean, it's an interesting timing for it.
Mhm.
I know that a program like that is definitely great for helping us to purchase homes. But is the understanding of what is offered in the program transparent? Are the
Mhm.
people going to fully know what it is they are investing themselves and
And
their
what is
time
the limits?
into?
What is the
Yeah.
limits? Because that's
Yeah.
the thing about when they put stuff in place into DC. Trust and believe me, especially when they bring it out of their behinds, like, you know what I'm saying, just bring it to the forefront. It's not going to last long.
And and you don't
Okay?
understand it because
No,
it
you
wasn't
don't.
even
It wasn't meant for you to understand because
no.
they want less and less people to fill out the applications, to get the information and all of that. It has limitations.
Certainly. And I just
It has limitations.
I say, you know, many of the things that were introduced, they were great. They
Mhm.
were supposed to be great,
Mhm.
but they didn't have a great effect.
They didn't have.
They
a great
didn't
effect.
reach the people
Mhm.
that like they should have. So so now's the time for a righteous change, a change that really means change.
Right.
Mhm.
And I will tell you, I support home ownership for anybody.
Mhm.
But like you all, I have questions. What happens after this? You're off of this program and you got to pay $9,000 in taxes.
Yeah,
Oh,
just
you
like
gotta
because I
pay.
mean they taking it down to 2%, but the thing about it is that's still like an older person paying $10,000.
Okay.
Yep.
Right.
That's horrifying.
Right.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? That's horrifying. So it's really not anything that's really helping too much. Okay.
And the housing is not it may sound good, but housing in
housing.
DC is
Mhm.
not cheap.
No, it's not.
It's not cheap, especially after gentrification.
And-
It's definitely.
And I guess my question would be, because you're right, one of the biggest issues in the district is a lot of African Americans have left mommy and grandmommy, big mama's house
Mhm.
because they can't afford to keep it. Those
Right.
row houses were paid for years and years ago,
Mhm.
but now the taxes are so high, those who've inherited the property can't afford to keep it. What kind of programs would you put in place for those families who want to stay in their homes on Capitol Hill or want to stay in their
Okay.
homes on Florida Avenue but can't afford to pay those taxes?
And that's you know, I'm glad you raised that question because why in the world are we continuously asking for more money, raising taxes? We need a smart budget.
Mhm.
There's no reason why the taxes, I mean, especially now, even in inflation, we got to see a rise in taxes. You see a rise in taxes, you see ticket cameras everywhere, you see all kinds of ways of generating revenue. So the rise in taxes, I like to know why. Why? There's a big enough budget. There's a large enough budget. Why do we have to raise the taxes? There's a lot of elderly, senior citizen people in DC who depend on their bills to stay at a minimum.
Mhm.
Yeah. And so to raise taxes on them, I just can't foresee getting rid of my base. You know, you got people in DC that are not there for long. They're not there all the time. You've got people that live there and been there all their lives. They are called the bread and butter. They are the base. They are the ones that are going that you can depend on when the going gets tough. So there should always be a consideration in place for your long-standing residents,
Mhm.
always. And the raising of taxes only tells us all, and I've heard from other voters that something is not being managed right. Something is not being managed right. And if you drive through there and you don't drive at a certain speed, Tanya, you might be walking away with a $200 ticket.
Yeah,
And then,
Trust
you know, and you're gonna be contributing to that pot.
yeah,
So it's really there's no reason for these
Mhm.
taxes to keep
Yeah.
going up.
During the first 6 months of 2022, DC has seen 221 more violent gun involved crimes compared to the same time last year. What is your thoughts on that?
Well, I feel it's just this is just something I just kind of connect and see a parallel, a sort of a relation that once our Black Lives Plaza was laid, I feel like it was a ticket or a invitation for violence to increase.
Yeah.
Because there was so much money spent on it,
Mhm.
and the money that was spent on it really had a better, it would have served better right where it was, which I understand that I believe it was pulled out of the COVID-19 fund.
Yeah.
And so the
And it was
COVID,
also $250,000 that was supposed to have been used for our homeless in DC. That was also snatched
Mhm.
and sent back. That was surplus money that was sent back. She has a really bad issue with sending monies back. And especially when it comes to monies that is supposed to help
Mhm.
the Black folks. I'm just
Yep.
going to say it just like it is. It's
Mhm.
money that's supposed to help Black folks in issues, even when it comes to the homeless.
That's right.
Okay. What kind of like irritated me is because they call this a sanctuary city. Okay. They have allowed 7,000 people to come here to this place where we have thousands and thousands of homeless people
Correct.
that are not taken care of. But then they want to act like it's okay, or they want to have an issue when the people of Washington, D.C., find a problem with that.
Correct.
And when they are the ones that put the division in between this, the haves and the have-nots, because people that have been here all of their lives, we are not giving food stamps in 24 hours and all of that crap type of crap. We have to wait 45 days, 60 days, okay? So to hear other people coming here, getting this money, getting housing, getting medical assistance. I had one man tell me, oh, well, we getting I have the advantage of having $15,000 given to me to help me start my own business. Okay, but we have people here that is not given that luxury. They're not given that luxury. What do you plan to do different?
What
when
you
it
just
comes
said.
when it comes to DC, what do you plan to do different?
What you just said was dead on. Was dead on that there are people that are here in DC that are homeless. They have no help from our DC government to get them on their feet. And then when there was funds there, it was, as you said, taken away. It certainly was. But then since there's been a $10 million migrant fund established to take care of the 7,000 migrants that have come into our city. And that is an absolute crime. That has to be made a really big deal by the people. I say that if I was mayor and 7,000 people were sent to DC under my watch by the governor of Texas and the other governor of Arizona, I would get on the phone with both of them. And I would immediately tell both of them, we got to have a conversation. This is going to be real short, but as of this time, at this very moment, our sanctuary city status is closed. We are no more a sanctuary city. Stop sending the migrants to my city. I have to take care of my own people and not establish a $10 million fund.
Because she was trying to get 55 million. That's what she was trying to get. She was trying to get 55 million.
So that sanctuary city status would be ended. It would be over right now. So I don't. So maybe the mayor took the advice that I gave on a platform, or maybe not. But I do know that the migrants coming in, it got quiet. So
and I'll say because this is the challenge. Because I've been watching this from afar, if you will, like the bridge. The governor from Florida and the governor from Texas said this is not about the district. This is not about DC, but we're sending them to the nation's capital. So my question to you is, as a potential mayor of the district, how do you deal with the federal government and its immigration policies that have opened the door for Texas and Florida to do what they
to just do that?
Well, the thing is, we have to remember now. Let's go back. There was a border that there is a border that was an attempt to close it, because this kind of stuff does happen. People walk through that border. They always coming into America, and America is a good nation. However, America has really had its bumps and its
and American is not
right. So it's puzzling to me. Like, why who telling you to come here? But anyway, but the borders, there was an attempt to close the borders from the past president. And so if that had been upheld, we would not be seeing this today. We would not be seeing this great influx of 3 million, 4 million migrants across the United States. Plus, we found out that the current president has flown them in to Florida, flew them into Florida at night. And so if that had not happened, then the governor of Florida and the governor of Texas, who's getting them through the border, and then the governor of Florida, who's getting them by plane, wouldn't do this. They wouldn't send them to the nation's capital, which is called the sanctuary city. If that border had been closed up, kept closed as it should have.
But it's not the sanctuary about about this city.
The sanctuary is supposed to take care of.
I don't know where they got that from, that definition, whatever. I don't even know where they got the word from, the title. Give it back.
Yep, the status has to end.
Okay.
So the president, our president, I really would wish he would have really put some thought into that before allowing them to come in. That should have really been thought through better, because look at the disaster that it's created.
Your first 100, get up out of here. What is your plans for your first 100 days?
That would have to be, I would need, first of all, to go in and assess.
Okay.
Assess. I need to, what's going on? Why we can't figure stuff out in DC? So it would have to be an assessment, like look through and comb through this budget and see, Lord help me, what's going on? Why this and why that? And then and so the goal would be to solve the problem. However, the next one would be to have a meeting with the teachers union and the adults in the schools, and find out, like, let's have an adult conversation here. Let's see what's going on. Let's find, why are our children in certain schools not learning? What is going on in the schools? But more importantly, and next would definitely have to be get with the faith leaders get with the police and the people
Mm-hmm.
and create a coalition against this violence and create communities within communities to really go after this violence, because everything else that's being attempted is not working. These violence interrupters, and all of these other type of operations, they're just not coming at that violence and bringing it down. We need our faith leaders involved, because they're connected, their faith, they're praying people, they're ministers, they're counselors. We need the people and we need the police. And so those are very important things that have to be done. I know I probably didn't answer the question fully about the crime and what had an impact on that, but I just feel like that Black Lives Matter Plaza might have had an impact. And gentrification.
And gentrification.
Yeah, had an impact.
I'm not gonna
on
say
bringing that.
I look at that Black Lives Matter. I feel like that was a waste of money, and it could have put in so many places and things that money could have went on.
Smart.
Okay. It that pissed me off. I don't even think I even ever went to visit it. Okay.
Right.
Because it just didn't make no sense. And to be honest with you, for me, she did that. That was an ego. That was, putting a ball. She got some balls with that. Okay. Because that was just to piss off the president. That's all that was.
Right.
It was put right there in front of it was just, that type of stuff. That's just like with the insurrection and the fact that I can go on and on and on about this. Yeah. I'm serious.
It's always about personal feeling.
It's always about personal feeling.
And I'm going to get this out and I'm going to get you tit for tat. That's what's been going on between the two parties.
Was a baby with her.
Republicans and Democrats, tit for tat, just going. And it's never really nothing ever for the people.
Yeah.
And you really get indignant. You get sick of it.
Yeah. And we are the ones that's suffering. We are the ones that's suffering.
Yeah, we're the ones that's suffering. Meanwhile, it's a power thing for them. It's a power thing for them. And once they get a taste of a little bit of power, they want more. So they don't remember the people.
Yeah.
They don't remember the people. They go from public servant to celebrity.
One more question before we get out of here. Okay. What is your position on defunding the police?
Lord, you all. So let me tell you just real quickly. So I'm a single mom, and back in 2011, my son, he had an encounter with the police in Miami. And his encounter with the police is what every mother, they don't ever want to encounter this and or have this happen to their child. But he was beaten by the police. He was beaten, and he was called the hard R word. And he was beaten. He was hospitalized, and he was charged with assaulting the police. So it made me angry, bitter. I was so distraught by it. I was writing the city leaders. I was doing everything I knew to do. And one thing that I wasn't doing enough of, and that was praying and just trusting God that one day justice would be served. And so him getting beaten like that, it took him a while to get back in the swing of things. But it was driving me crazy. It was driving me crazy. And I was beginning to hate police. But I had to really, really focus on peace and really feeling that place in my heart that was of that with peace. And so one day I woke up, y'all, and one day I had a heart full of forgiveness. And because I started looking at them, Lord, they don't know what they're doing. I always, a lot of times, some of them don't know. Some of them are quiet. They won't go, and they won't tell what's
All
going
police are not the
on.
same.
And they and so
Mhm.
and then there's those that are great. And so
Mhm.
I said, you know what, Lord, one day you're gonna get justice. You're gonna get justice for my son and all the other ones before him and whoever's coming after him.
That's
You're
right.
gonna get justice for us. It's all gonna come to the light, and people are gonna up. And so good things have started to happen. The after the George Floyd, good things are starting to happen, a little bit derailed, but good things are starting to happen with the police. I just and so I believe in our police.
Yeah.
I am not holding any grudges, no anger, total forgiveness and understanding, because we have very, very good police. And so I believe we need our police.
Yeah.
Defunding our police is not wise. We need a mental health task force.
Mhm.
I heard that there was kind of one, but
They're
come to
not being
find out
used, and
that they thought, but it
it's
really
not.
it wasn't being
Mhm.
used. But there's
We
funds there.
definitely need that,
Yeah,
because
we
when
need
we
a mental
have,
health.
we having
Mhm.
some issues in DC, and I don't think that the police needs to go out when there's a mental health crisis
Correct.
situation,
Correct.
because they don't know how to handle them.
Yep.
They're not equipped to handle them or educated like a mental health worker. Before they closed St. Elizabeth's down, we used to have that type of stuff. Okay.
Yep. And
we used to have the outreach, I call them the outreach workers, that come out to the neighborhoods when they had people that was dealing with different issues, and they would take them to get help. Not take them to jail, but take them to the hospital to get a 72-hour evaluation.
Yep.
And assist them. And then after that, work with them on whatever, give them a caseworker and work with them on whatever issues they need. I think that they need to go back to the old way of doing things.
That's a great idea.
We don't have the
Great
hospitals
idea.
and things around anymore that we used to have. But like I said, change is coming. The change starts with us.
Absolutely.
I want you to let people know your website, how they can get in touch with you. Because November the 8th is damn near here.
Yep, it is. And so yeah, my desire is to bring better education, vocation, trade. And you know what? Spend our money smart. Our children deserve some kind of incentive for showing up to school, learning, getting the grade. Let's take some of that money, smart money, and let's incentivize them with it. They will do better when you invest like that.
Exactly.
They'll do better with there. And so the crime, we got to address the crime the old-fashioned way. Let's bring our faith leaders back. Let's involve them in it, and let's get crime under wrap, and let's mentor our children, because the most of the children, most of the youth are committing the crime.
Yeah.
And they get right back out. So they need the help. So you can learn more about me when you log on to staciahall.com, staciahall.com. And if you want to vote November 8th for me, let's do it together. Let's sweep up the trash in DC. Let's sweep it up.
Okay.
Sweep it up with me. Do it with me. And so if you want to, sweep up the trash in DC. And if you want to donate, log on to staciahall.com. There's a donation page there. Let's vote November 8th. Let's vote to sweep up the trash. Be fearless, DC.
That's right. And this has been the first of many shows, Blaqrose Garden, powered by Monroe Media TV. I want to thank everybody for being here. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
For being
I
here.
love it.
My beautiful co-hosts, Auntie Sharman and Miss Tanya Swats. Mr. Hill, of course, he had to leave a little earlier. He tore it up earlier. But we'll be back next Tuesday, okay? Love y'all. Peace out.